taking notes from nobody.
Jaylen Brown.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back in to a Celtics post-game live. I am your host, Rob. I'm with my co-host, Ian. Seamus will be joining us shortly. The Boston Celtics get the win and defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 88-87 in a much-needed win at home at the Garden. Jayson Tatum led the way for Celtic scores. He had 26 points. He also had 16 rebounds, which I believe is a career high, if I'm not mistaken. 16 rebounds, career high for Jayson Tatum. And then behind him was off the bench Dennis Schroeder, 13 points. And then everyone kind of tagged along, 10 and 9. Jaylen Brown had 9 points on 3 for 11 shooting. We're going to talk about Brown and his injury later on in the show. Guys, first responses, first reactions to the Celtics win.
Let's go! Finally.
I apologize for the technical difficulties, but, oh my Lord, this was probably, I don't know if it was the win of the season, but it has to be top 3 of the season thus far. 1-point win over the Sixers, an 80s style of game, almost seemingly not in the style of play, but the pace of the game, more say. I mean, we have a lot to say about this game, but tonight, great win for the Celtics. They needed this one, and they ultimately could not start out December with a buzzer beater against them tonight, which didn't happen.
For sure. And,
oh, man.
I texted the group, our post-game group, and I was like, I don't feel good about this game. The Celtics really have not won a game like this all year. Down the stretch, close game, kind of a dogfight. You always kind of feel like the fourth quarter rolls around, 6 minutes left, and the Celtics kind of let it fall apart and drift away. That wasn't really the case, I felt like, tonight. I feel like the Celtics did a pretty solid job at, staying in the game, getting the necessary stop, getting the necessary bucket. I thought Jayson Tatum was actually really great. 26 points, like I said. He did shoot 45% from the floor, which is pretty acceptable. It's pretty solid shooting. He shot 3 for 8 from beyond the arc, 37.5. Not amazing, but also, then again, not a bad shooting night by any means for Tatum. And, you also, he gave us a career high on the rebounding, category, which is much needed when Horford had 8, Robert Williams had 4, and Enes Kanter Freedom had 7, the newly named man. But also some buzz around the news. The Heat lost 111-85 to Cleveland, so that puts us now a game back out from Miami, who is the 5 seed. The Milwaukee Bucks are currently playing a nail biter of a game. They're down 3 to the Hornets. We'll keep you updated on that one. That's also important for the standings and the Celtics. And I believe there was one more game. Yes, the Hawks beat the Pacers to go to 12-10, and the Wizards beat the Wolves to go to 14-8. So Eastern Conference getting some dubs. But someone I want to talk about here tonight is Jaylen Brown, Seamus. Now, you said something in the group chat was kind of interesting. What's your take on Brown? You don't think he's healthy?
There's no way Jaylen Brown is healthy right now, and it is so obvious when you watch him out on the court. I said this a couple days ago, or a week ago, I should say. The Celtics, I don't understand why they're trying to bring him back, trying to rush him back on court, or he's trying to rush himself back on court. I don't know why they're allowing him to do that, because we've seen with his hamstring injury multiple times throughout NBA history. When someone's hamstring is not healthy, they sit down, they rest it for a couple of days, and it feels fine. But when they come back and try to explode off of it, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel 100% healthy. These hamstring injuries are so tricky, and I don't understand why he's just playing through it, because at the beginning, it was he has a minutes restriction. He's going to be day-to-day moving forward. If he's day-to-day moving forward, if you're monitoring that injury constantly, why is he playing? He should be resting the injury all through this time, and yet he's out there playing, and he looks hobbled the entire time. And almost during times on the floor, it's almost like he's a negative more than he is a positive. So in those two aspects, the fact that, he's not really making as big of an impact as he should out there or can out there, combined with the fact that you are now putting him at greater risk for greater injury, I just don't understand why Jaylen Brown's playing right now. He'll be questionable next game, there's no doubt. He was wincing when he left the floor tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses another game or two. He should really miss this whole West Coast road trip, if I'm being honest. I'm no doctor or know the state of him, but just give him that time to rest. We'll be fine. We have to come together as a team. I know it sucks. I know we want to gain chemistry with the whole squad, but if your whole squad's not healthy come playoff time, that's a new problem in itself, and that's what the Celtics have to prevent right now.
Yeah, I thought that offensively he was kind of useless out there. However, I wouldn't say he was a negative impact. Obviously, a +5, plus minus if you're one of those guys. I do think defensively he was actually very solid in terms of when he was getting switched onto Embiid. He was keeping pace. I thought he did a great job in rotation. I thought he made a couple of big plays down the stretch defensively. But I would be crazy to disagree with you in the sense where I do think he looks I'd say 75% out there, and I think we do need him 100. And if you look at the Celtics schedule, you got a couple, I think, restable games for Brown. I do think I completely agree he is going to be questionable against the Utah Jazz tomorrow, two nights from now, I believe, or Friday night. I do think that Portland game and that Lakers game and even that Clippers game, you could completely rest them. Portland will be without Dame, LA will be without LeBron, and the Clippers kind of are a one-man show, and I think the Celtics outmatch them roster-wise. They can kind of hang without Brown there. I would love to get him back for that Phoenix game and definitely for the homestand coming up where we got Milwaukee, Golden State, and Knicks and Sixers back at home. But, when you're, like you said, hamstrings are tricky. I want Brown to kind of be the man to call the shots here because I think he knows his body best. But you're messing. You're true, Seamus. I mean, you're right because you're messing. You're playing with fire. It feels like here right now with Brown.
And
that's really definitely
about it. Yeah. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just agreeing. Like Jaylen Brown does not look healthy at all right now, and it's a little scary to think about because when this team is at 100%, this team. I mean, I've said it all season long, and I'm going to continue to say it, no matter how many people say I'm wrong. Celtics are a top 3 seed in the East if everyone's healthy and everyone's playing the way that they know how to play. But if we have Jaylen Brown, who is basically our second best player, and he is hobbled out there, me and Seamus, when we were together on that couple post-game shows, we watched Jaylen Brown play. We said it a million times. We're like, why is he even out there if he is completely hobbled? That really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I know you want him to you want him to be a part of the chemistry. You want him to build, you want him to build these relationships. But at the same time, if he's not playing at 100% and doing the 100% of things that he can do, then why is he even out there in the first place?
Yeah.
But I personally don't really want to talk about the negatives completely. I feel like we should talk about more of the positives in this game.
Well, yeah, and I do hate to bring up another negative because, this is a big win. We're 2 games above 500. We got a West Coast road trip coming up. Mostly everyone's healthy. Tatum gave me a scare down. Thibault, but, he's good. That's good to see. However, something I do really want to talk about here is that, this is the 6th game with fully healthy that the starters are playing with each other. And I think you can still see some lack of communication errors. There are a couple turnovers here. The Celtics were kind of sloppy with the ball all night. I thought Tatum through the first 3 quarters, and same with Brown, were kind of sloppy, giving Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Matisse Thybulle, and even Maxey kind of a lot of pokes and a lot of strip balls, and the Celtics did have 13 turnovers, which is kind of a lot. I don't know if you guys see it, but I still do see that kind of that lack of. They're still just like a half a second kind of off cue because of the lack of playing time together.
Yeah, and I mean that's gonna happen when you have guys that are out for long stretches of time. Yeah. If Josh Richardson, I'm not trying to crap on Josh Richardson in any form, but if he's gonna miss 3 games in a row, and then Robert Williams is gonna miss 5 games in a row, Jaylen Brown misses 8 in a row, and then Dennis Schroeder misses a game. It's gonna take time for these guys to develop chemistry. There's a lot of good players on this team, and I mean. It's just going to happen sometimes. And I feel like as the season goes on, maybe hopefully closer to playoff time, the Celtics will build enough chemistry with these guys to where they aren't that half second off of anything. And that's kind of the best case scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think this real quick, Seamus, I'm going to send it back right over to you. I think this West Coast road trip is a great opportunity to do that. because I do think that Utah's a tough matchup. They really historically have given us a lot of trouble. But 3 out of the 5 games are extremely winnable. Extremely winnable. So I'm looking at Portland, LA, in both LA games as games that you can go in there and you can get wins. If we can find a way to beat Utah or Phoenix on the road, if we go 4-1 on this road trip, this is a great chance, like I said, for this starting 5 to really get meshed. It's a road trip. It's a great opportunity to kind of get the chemistry going. And 2, it's against good Western Conference teams that will keep it competitive, yet very winnable Western Conference teams in those Blazers, Lakers, and Clippers.
Yeah, all of a sudden with all the injuries out west, I think all of these games become a little bit more winnable. But obviously we got to see the Celtics do this more often. We have to see the Celtics string together games, and this little stretch here, five-game West Coast road trip, I think a 3-2 record would be acceptable. You win the number 1 game I expect us to lose, and I was even looking at it tonight and thinking about it last night. The Phoenix Suns game is going to be so tough. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, if not the best team in the NBA. I think they showed last night. That game's probably going to be won. The Celtics should not be favored in it. But if you look at the other 4 games, the Jazz, the Blazers, the Lakers, and the Clippers, you can win the Clippers game. As you said, they're kind of a one-man show. They have a couple of tough veterans on that team still that can get the job done, but the Celtics do outmatch them personnel-wise. And the Blazers, obviously no Damian Lillard. That just puts a whole damper to their situation. And the Lakers, no LeBron James in that situation either now. So those are 3 games you can definitely win. Utah, another one of the best teams in the league as well. That's probably the other game you expect to lose. So the Jazz game, the Suns game, probably not going to be favored in those. But those other 3 games, you should probably be able to grab all 3 of them, if not at least 2 of them moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know who made the schedule, but whoever is the asshole that gave us the Celtics, the Suns, the Bucks, and the Warriors 3 games in a row, you can go screw yourself, because I mean that's really just that's just, I think that's actually like complete bullshit that the Celtics even have to go through that 3 game. You can't find me another team in the NBA that goes through the Suns, the Bucks, and the Warriors 3 games in a row. You wouldn't be able to do that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's rough, but I mean, if the Celtics want to be a championship contender, they got to figure out how to beat these teams, and they got to figure out how to match up with them.
Down the stretch, I think this December is going to be really good for the Celtics, because guess what? January is going to roll around, and you're going to be playing teams like the Pacers twice, and the Hornets are solid, and the Pelicans, and the Kings, and the play the Pelicans twice. So your Magic. So those games are going to become a lot easier for the Celtics, which is going to be great. I mean, this is just, I'm looking at the schedule. It's so weird. We come back from the West Coast road trip. We have a 3-day break to play Milwaukee at home. And then we have a 4-day break to play Golden State at home. So in the course of a week, we play 2 games.
That's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's going to be
weird. It's just really weird. I mean, I feel like that's kind of setting us up for failure. Like I said, it's that stretch where you play Phoenix, Bucks, Warriors. I don't know who made the schedule. Like I said, whatever asshole did that.
But Justin does make a good point in the comments, though, right now. No Devin Booker potentially for that matchup.
I thought you were talking about the Seamus 6-2 and guarantees.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a pretty good point, too. We can get to that. But other than that, Devin Booker hurt his hamstring last night, another hamstring injury. We know how tough those issues are with hamstrings. We just talked about it with Jaylen Brown. So if Devin Booker misses 1 or 2 of those games, it becomes a little bit easier for the Celtics, but the Suns are still a team to beat out west, I believe, right now.
Yeah, I mean, this December is not going to be easy, but I think the key to the it says Devin Booker hamstring expected to be sidelined for a few games. I don't know what that means.
We play them Saturday next week. Is that correct?
So the Suns have 3 more games before they play us. So a few technically is 3 to 4 by definition, if I'm not mistaken. So
it'll be Friday. So what, like 9 days from now, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could be out that game. I don't know how severe the injury is, obviously, but
yeah,
we just talked about hamstring injuries. Who knows?
Hang on, Rob. I figured out who you can direct all of your anger to. The people that make the schedule. His name is Matt. I got names. Matt Winnick was the former senior vice president of scheduling game operations, but he stepped down. So you can blame Evan Wash for taking over responsibilities. You can also blame Tom Corelli because they work together. So there you go.
Am I crazy, or is it not just absolute like bullshit that that's like that. That's a stretch of you. I mean, I'm not wrong. That's a stretch of basketball where the Celtics could easily play 3 great games of basketball. So that to make it, I mean, the Knicks and Sixers aren't 2 easy games either, and neither are the Clippers and Lakers the 2 games before that.
Oh, Rob, your mic keeps cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say though, if you looked at that schedule 10 years ago, you would have thought the Celtics would be on a 6-game winning streak. So
yeah. But
It's weird how the NBA changes like that. I always think about that. I was thinking about that when we were talking about the schedule earlier. I was like, the Bucks, the Warriors, the 76ers on there, the Suns. We would have been set up in December. That would have been great.
Yeah,
back
I know.
in 2015.
Back in 20, yeah, if this was 2017, would be
not the Warriors in 2015.
would be
Not the
awesome.
Warriors,
But I mean, we'll see. I thought this was a good game. I thought that it was one of those games where we just scrapped it out. And I think we haven't had much of those. We haven't really, especially against a good Philly is much better than their record. I mean, Joel Embiid, he missed 10 games with COVID, right? I believe.
Yeah,
they went
he was
3-7.
going through it. He was really bad when he got COVID. Like they had an interview with him. Abby Chin was saying something like he felt like he wasn't going to make it. Like that's how bad he felt with COVID, and that's kind of rough.
Yeah, and I think right now Joel Embiid, he looks pretty out of shape out there now. Come playoff time, that's going to be the biggest story I think for the 76ers is number one. Well, the Ben Simmons story is number one, but after that it becomes Joel Embiid's health moving forward. And we saw him take a couple of tough falls tonight. He always takes a couple of tough falls throughout the season. He also doesn't look in shape right now. There were a couple of possessions where he was straight up walking down the floor to set up an offensive possession for the Sixers. Joel Embiid, I said in the past, I don't think he's built for a whole playoff run. And last year, torn meniscus in the playoffs, he played on it. Very impressive, just very impressive performance out of him in the playoffs last year. That was a legendary performance. Kudos to Joel Embiid for that. But to make it the full 4 rounds, I still have questions on whether or not Joel Embiid can do that and can do that with the Sixers team because I think they need to get something for Simmons. Simmons was such a big part of this team. We're seeing it now this year. Look how slow that game was from the Sixers' perspective. Last year, that would have been an up and down game. I believe last year, one of our games was like 122 to 110, something of that nature. Just completely different complexity to their team. They either need to have Ben Simmons back, which I don't think is going to happen whatsoever, or trade him elsewhere and get something for him. Because I think the Sixers team has the potential to be a top team, but they just don't look like it right now. I know I just went on a whole spiel about the Sixers, but our opponent, a very important opponent moving forward.
Yeah, and real quick, giveaway for the tickets will be at the end of the show or towards the end. However, you make a good point there, Seamus, and also, you got to think about it. Embiid is turning 28, 29. He's not going to want to waste much more time. It's kind of a ticking time bomb if you're not going to move Simmons for some type of help. Because you got to think. I mean, there's been some packages I've heard of Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert. I mean, if you were to move, you add Brogdon or LeVert to the Sixers team, and they're a very real contender. They're not too many pieces away. I think that without Simmons, their offense moves really well. I think Maxi's been the point guard, the scoring guard they've been missing. So I think the more you let Simmons sit out, the worse this team does is just it's a matter of time before Embiid wants out. I know it's not really on the topic of the Boston Celtics, but I do think that's something you got to look at.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I will say one thing I want to talk about Maxey. Thanks for selling me in fantasy tonight, by the way, Maxey. But I mean, he's pretty good, honestly. I mean, he doesn't have the defense that Ben Simmons or the height or any of that nature, but Maxey's a pretty solid scoring guard. So I mean, I don't know. They might as well just ride it out. I have a feeling they're going to ride it out. Daryl Morey is like the most petty person I've ever seen in my life. Like he basically almost did the same thing with James Harden, but James Harden was just too good so that you had to trade him.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about the Celtics for once. Let's talk about Jayson Tatum cuz holy crap, what a game by Jayson Tatum. 9 for 20 shooting, like 20 points, 16 rebounds. I mean, Tatum's career high in rebounding, and I've been saying this along during the year, and I feel like I have said it, but I haven't made it a big deal. His rebounding has been insane this season. Like, he has improved his rebounding so much, and I mean, rebounding, it's important. It's not as important as scoring the ball or anything like that, but at the same time, I mean, his rebounding has been super, super important, and he's having games where he's having double-digit rebounds and leading the game in rebounds, which is kind of crazy to see.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of goes to effort. I think when Tatum tries and puts his mind to these statistics, he's actually a really good basketball player. We've seen it now with passing. We've seen it damn well for scoring, and I think we're starting to see it with rebounding. I mean, the man is he's the perfect basketball build. He's 6'10". He can dribble like a guard. He's a kind of a mini Kevin Durant 2.0. And I think that, when Tatum tries and looks to be aggressive and tries to, to really put his head down and succeed, he's really damn good. I do still think Tatum is whining for calls too much. I mean, tonight there were some plays where he drove and it could have been a foul, but it also couldn't have been. And he looks at the ref and he flails his arm up. I'm like, all right, let's get back. I mean, however, Tatum played great. I can't bash him too much tonight. He had a good game.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that's Tatum's new signature move. Anytime he scores, he's just gonna flail his arm up to the ref. I think every player has their signature move, and I feel like this is gonna. I bet you Tatum tells the refs, I'm not complaining. It's just my signature move. I'm just gonna look really distraught.
Yeah.
I still think Tatum has another level to go up to, because if you look at his shots tonight, he was 9 of 20, but I felt like some of the shots he made were his really tough shots, and he still missed some of those easy wide open ones. And if he just hits those in the future, which I believe he will eventually, he's going to be insane. I mean, tonight he had 26 points. If he makes some of those open shots, he could be up to 14 of 20. He could have, over 35 points tonight, something of that nature. And Tatum, obviously staying aggressive too, is going to get him where he wants to go to, getting to the free throw line. I know he went to the free throw line 5 times tonight, but he can easily get to the free throw line, 7, 8, 9 times a game if he wanted to. He just has to stay aggressive. And on nights like this, this was a great Tatum performance, but he still has another level to go up to. And I'm not saying this was a bad performance, but Tatum, he still has an ascension to prevail in.
Yeah, so let's do some over-under here. I'm kind of looking at them now. So it was an interesting one. So the first one here, we had Jaylen Brown over under 21.5 points. Ian got that one with the under. Brown did only have 9 points tonight. Seamus and I took the over. We kind of thought that, Tatum would be looking to pass. Brown, looking to kind of have a bounce-back game. He's kind of been right there on cracking 21. He's been on minute restrictions. That restriction gets boosted. However, he kind of came out flat. Next one was Marcus Smart. Damn, I had a rough night. Marcus Smart.
This was good. This was good.
Yeah, Marcus Smart, 6.5 assists. I said under. I thought he would have 6. He came out with 8. He had 6 in the first half.
I know, that was nuts. He had 6 in the first quarter.
Yeah, so Shane and Ian both hit on that one. I go 0 for 2. Then this one is we all got wrong. Celtics bench outscores Philly's bench, and I actually talked about it in the pregame show. I said that they got guys like Milton and Korkmaz. Korkmaz didn't play much at all tonight. It was the other guys killing us was Gory Niang or whatever.
Niang.
Oh, yeah. Niang's a real player, man. Niang, I don't understand why he was so wide open for most of the night. The Celtics, they played him last year, I believe. He was dominating us when he was on Utah. So I don't understand why the Celtics completely lost him tonight.
He's
Ime and Brad. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
New Hampshire, Boston native. There.
Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Another
native.
one.
Yeah.
Another dude who just comes home and just destroys us.
Yeah, so we all got those wrong. And then the Celtics win the rebounding battle. Technically, you guys got it right because it tied. You guys said we wouldn't win the rebounding battle.
So it's a wash.
I said we would, so it's technically a wash. The bonus one doesn't. No one gets points there. I theoretically speaking.
We're the Detroit Lions and Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, so
that one.
Seamus got 1, and Ian got 2. I came out 0. I had a awful night.
Sorry.
There.
At least you got that push at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
See there you go.
so what do you guys say? Is it time? Do you think we should announce the giveaway winner?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they're ready for it.
I don't know if they're ready for it. I mean, mind you, this is 2 tickets to the Celtics Pistons March 11th game. You were sitting on section 17, I believe, row F, which is right around 8 rows back, behind the Celtics basket. I want to say on the second half, the one they shoot at.
It's near the Pistons bench.
Pistons bench.
So
Yeah. So yeah, it's the one they shoot at second half. Just so
Cade Cunningham.
I have the winner
will
here.
say,
do we announce it? I don't know if we should.
Yeah, I say announce it and make sure you have a little pop up so if the person is watching in chat, they can figure it out too.
Yeah, I have the pop up, but I don't know. I kind of want to keep them waiting, but I feel bad.
I don't know. I feel like we should announce it. Do we have like a background like drum roll or something?
I don't think we have a background drum roll.
All right, I guess we have to make it ourselves.
Can we get a drum roll?
All right, let's go.
All right, so the winner of the March 11th Celtics ticket giveaway to sit in the Garden is Matthew Bigotta, I believe. I will DM you. Clap it up for Matt. I'll DM you. I'm going to DM you on Instagram the instructions on how to get the tickets. However, if you don't respond in 24 hours, Matt, the tickets are going to have to go somewhere else. So, I would assume you Justin's in here saying he paid me. I suggest you hopefully you came in and watched because that's what we said to do, come in and watch. However, you got 24 hours. Get to take the tickets. Congratulations winning there. I hope you
And I will say, Matt, if you follow me on TikTok and you don't have a second person to go to the game, don't worry, I'll go to the game with you.
It is 2 tickets.
Don't worry, Matt, I got you.
And hopefully you'll see a Celtics win. It's a Pistons game. I know it's not the best team, but we got a budget.
I mean, they got the Celtics and Pistons always play a good game though. The Pistons dominated last year.
It was so weird. We were like 1-2 against the Pistons last year.
No, the worst part about the Pistons loss, like one of the losses last year, it was like the game after New Year's, I think.
Yes.
Right? And like they got smacked. Sadiq Bey went like perfect from 3. He was like 12 of 12 from 3 or something crazy like that.
And then he got us again at the Garden a couple of months later, or no, it was a month later. It was right before Valentine's Day. It was around Valentine's Day. That was the first little pop-up, or I should say after the Knicks game where we just completely got blown out on Sunday. That was the first little pop-up in which it was like, we drop a game to the Raptors, we drop a game to the Pistons. I don't know about this.
And then on Valentine's Day, we got absolutely massacred by the Wizards in Washington. And you know why I remember these so much? I remember that Pistons game and I remember that Washington game so vividly is because I was at work. I was at Dunkin' and I had my phone, had the AirPod in, and I was listening to the Celtics radio the entire time, listening to the Celtics get absolutely blown out. And I remember after the Wizards game, when I got home from work, it was the first time I ever called into the radio station to complain about the Celtics because I was so pissed.
Someone in the comments said, "I hate to be that guy, but I hope Matt doesn't respond."
I was gonna say there has to be like a bunch of people right now going, "Oh well."
Yeah, I know. Well,
Matt,
cool,
well, dang, we watched these guys for like a half hour waiting for this ticket giveaway. And...
Yeah, so I do think I want to get back to this game in particular because I do think there's a lot to take away from it. Yeah.
Oh, you were cutting out. Sorry, Rob.
Sorry, have we been 2 games over 500? We got there once, right? And then we dropped.
Yeah, we were 10-8 at one point.
10-8, yeah.
I believe. Yes, we were 10-8. Yeah. And then I believe that's the only point we were over 500 by 2 games. So I remember
that was it.
I put down 11-8 under the next graphic.
Wait, we were actually 3 games over 500 at one point.
Oh, for real? When was that?
It's when we beat the Lakers, Thunder, and Oh wait, no, it was 2 games. My bad. I thought it was 3. It was a 3-game win streak, but it was 2 games.
So
Right.
I want to hear your guys' predictions here because I thought it was funny. First of all, Seamus and I both literally threw up a calendar post 30 minutes from each other. I literally posted it and I was like, oh well, what the hell? He also just posted one. I thought that was very funny, but I'm looking at the schedule and I want to make a prediction and say what we're going to come out of December like, but I also don't know how we're going to play because, like I said, so we're 1-0 on this. What did you call it? A gauntlet of December?
Yeah, the December.
The December gauntlet.
The December gauntlet.
Nope. Cutting out again, Rob.
I don't know why. It's something with my mic. But so Utah, we're going to talk about, we're going to say favorites here, right? Who's the favorites to win these games and what our records would be based off that. Utah, I'd probably give the edge to the Jazz. Blazers, I give the edge to us. Lakers, I give the edge to us. And Clippers, I give the edge to us. Am I crazy in those 3? No.
I think the Clippers win that first game. I feel like we split against the Clippers. I don't know. That's
you
just
think so?
That's just my feeling because I feel like there's going to be a game. Paul George is going to drop like 50, and then we're going to lose on like a last-second buzzer beater to Zubac or something like that. That's the feeling.
So what did we do against the Clippers last year? So we had that really good game in Los Angeles, which was
the one where Tatum snapped Paul George's ankles and then they lost in overtime.
No, that was 2 years ago. All of a sudden.
Oh, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, last year we had that game. Last year it was the Carson Edwards show. He had 16 points.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't remember what happened. The game at the Garden. I believe we won.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I know it was delayed like 17 minutes because of TNT, but I don't remember what the outcome of that game was. But that was with Kawhi last year. I don't think they had Paul George last year. At that point, I don't remember. Last year, all of a sudden, even though it was this year, it was last season.
Dude, honestly, I think we go 1-1. Alright, I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna give my predictions. I am. I think we beat the Sixers. I think we lose to the Jazz. I think we beat the Blazers, the Lakers, the Clippers. I think we lose to Phoenix. I think we beat the Bucks at home. See, the thing about so that puts us at 5-2 for the month. The tough part, or no, 5-2. The tough part about the Warriors is, historically speaking, the Celtics have played really well against the Warriors like every year, even back to the Kevin Durant days, even back to the Isaiah Thomas. I mean, we were the only team to beat them on, at home at their own house, back in that 73 win season. So, the Celtics do play them well, but at the same time, they have been very hot recently. So I'm not gonna say any. I'm gonna leave that one out. I think we beat the Knicks. I think we beat the Sixers again at home. And I hate to say all these, but I think we beat the Cavs. I think we lose to the Bucks on Christmas. I don't know. I think I'm giving the Celtics too many wins here.
Yeah, I kind of said my thing on the West Coast road trip earlier. I think the Suns and the Jazz will be favored in their games.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of favorites, I think favorite-wise, I think Vegas will have the Lakers favored possibly over
with LeBron out.
Yeah, because they're at home. Like all these games, they're West Coast road trips. Celtics will be coming off another road game prior to that outside of the Jazz game. So I think in terms of actual favorites, the Celtics could possibly not be favored in any of these games. But considering the circumstances, I think that the Jazz and the Suns are clear favorites over the Celtics. Those other 3 games, I don't think they're clear favorites whatsoever. I think the Celtics have a slight advantage, but we'll have to see where they go on this West Coast road trip because, not only are we facing some tough competition, obviously the injuries are going to play a big part on the other teams. Injuries on our side is Jaylen Brown. We talked about this. I don't know what his situation. I think he should probably rest during the stretch. And also just being on the road every night for the next, 10 days or so. That's tough on any team. It's always tough. West Coast teams going east, East Coast teams going west. That's all going to factor into this next stretch. And I think 3-2 is acceptable, and then after that, I mean, I don't really know what to think of our matchup with Milwaukee. I thought we were going to be a way better team than them the last time we saw them because Giannis was out, and that would open up opportunities for us. Yet we went into overtime. We controlled that game. Yet we went into overtime. We didn't really pull that out in convincing fashion, I would say. It took a 38-point performance from Dennis Schroeder. Warriors game, the Knicks game, and then I'm going off of memory here. I'm not even looking at anything down here, or I'm looking at something loading here. The Warriors game is going to be tough. They're going to be obviously a West Coast team going east as well. I can't really make any predictions outside of the next West Coast road trip because at that point, I think in 2 weeks, things always change. Teams, more guys get injured, players come back, teams go on runs. They hit certain hot streaks, certain low streaks. The Celtics could easily go 0-5, be completely dead in the water coming home, and then we wouldn't feel comfortable about any of these decisions. So that's all I have on the predictions for now, I guess.
All right, can I tell you guys my predictions? Now, this is not going to be... As much as I am a Celtics fan, I'm also trying to be a realist when I come to these predictions. And I'm going to give it like a game or two buffer. So like it could go like 1 to 2 losses either way in this situation. But so I had them beating Philly tonight. So that's one. They beat the Jazz tomorrow. They beat the Trailblazers and the Lakers. Then they lose their next 4 to the Clippers, Suns, Bucks, and Warriors. They beat the Knicks. They lose to the Sixers. They beat the Cavs. They lose to the Bucks on Christmas. They beat the Timberwolves. They beat the Clippers, and then they lose to the Suns again to end the month. So I potentially have them going 8-7 this month. And I feel like, I mean, it might not go the way I said it, where it's like there's going to be a 4-game win streak and then a 4-game losing streak. Although I would hope it doesn't go this way. I'm just thinking of possible situations. So yeah, I'm having a feeling it's going to be 8-7. Although the Celtics gave me a little hope. So who knows? Maybe they turn it around and they go 10-5, or 9-6 in that situation. I feel like that'd be a little bit better.
They have to grab as many games as possible here in December without inching towards 500 or below 500. Because if you enter January 500, what is going to happen moving forward? We're not gonna know what the team is going to look like past February if the team finishes December 500. Now, obviously, there's a chance they could go on a run in January with their given opponents. However, at that point, is it going to be enough to convince the front office and ownership that this is a team that can compete in the Eastern Conference? This December is going to say a lot about the future moving forward. And the Celtics, they can't. 8-7 is, we're going to be 3 games over 500 if we finish the month 8-7, or I guess, I don't know if that was the Philly game included. But if we somehow finish the month 4 games over 500 in the month, I don't know how that's going to happen with some of the given opponents. That said, I think if we finish over 4 games over 500, we're 6 games over 500 entering January. That's probably where you want to be entering January during this stretch in December. Otherwise, it's going to be a very murky future for the Boston Celtics, no doubt.
I think I'm gonna actually I'm confident. I'm confident, and the reason I say that is just because of our record against these teams last season. We split the game again. We split Phoenix last year. We blew them out at home, and we lost on the road. I believe we got blown out. Like we lost by 14 or 13 on the road. Milwaukee. That's more reasonable now looking back at it. At the time, it was like, oh man, we lost to Phoenix by 13. And we blew them out. I mean, we blew them out at home, mind you. Yeah, I think Milwaukee, we match up really, really well against Milwaukee this year, especially with Horford back. We beat the Bucks 3-1 last season. Utah always gives us problems. I got no expectations going into that game. That's a tough matchup. Golden State, same thing. Historically speaking, we beat them, but it took a monstrous night from Jayson Tatum scoring to take down a lot less talented Warriors team. I think Peel, all of them. So I'm looking at. I think this could be a very successful month if the Celtics lock in and stay healthy. I do think this team has turned the corner. I'm gonna say that, and people might call me crazy, but I think the corner has been turned. I thought we've played some very good basketball outside of that one San Antonio loss. Since that San Antonio loss, I mean, what, 3-4-1, 5-1, we're 6-1, 6-2, right? So like we're playing really good basketball. Actually, I think we've turned the corner. I do think this December. I agree. It could go poorly. It could go very poorly, or it could go, I think, very very well. And I'm expecting the Celtics to come out and compete every game. If we can compete every single game, I will be feeling confident.
Hey, and
Definitely.
great news for the future too. Just not with the Celtics, but just the NBA in general. The MLB owners vote unanimously to institute a lockout. So hey, maybe in April, no baseball. So hey, sit back and watch the NBA playoffs this year, folks. There you go, more viewers. NBA.
That's sad. Although it was if any of you guys follow the MLB, it was impending. There was 100% going to be a lockout no matter what. It didn't matter what was going to happen. So
For sure.
But hey, plenty of eyes to watch basketball.
Yeah, so before we close it out, like I said, in these next 15 games, the Celtics will play 3 back-to-backs. They have a 5-game West Coast road trip, a 5-game homestand, 15 games versus teams over 500, 7 nationally televised broadcasted games, 3 games versus the top 2 seeds currently sitting in the NBA. This is hands down the biggest stretch of basketball I think the Celtics will / have played in a very long time. It is a true test for the Celtics, and it looks like these guys are ready to kind of put their head down and get some wins. I think the status of Jaylen Brown is very, very important. Guys, before we close out this show, last thoughts, last words here.
I said we'd finish over the 76ers if they don't do anything with Ben Simmons for the whole season or until the trade deadline. I think that will come to fruition. The Sixers team plays slow. They hit their fair amount of shots, I would say, but I just don't think what they're doing right now is a formula to winning in the long run. So my prediction stands. The Boston Celtics will finish over the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, I think the best takeaway you can say is the Celtics showed their fight. I mean, like you said, we haven't had a lot of these games where the Celtics have had to scrap it out, it coming down to the wire. I mean, I don't even think we've talked about this yet. I feel like we've talked about everything but the game that's actually happened. But what a block by Robert Williams to end the game. Absolutely clutch. Al Horford had 5 blocks tonight. Robert Williams had 3 blocks tonight. Absolutely crazy game by those two. It's an encouraging sign heading into this West Coast road trip. I'm not sure we stack up the best against Utah, but I'm excited to see what it is. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
For sure. Yeah. I think the Celtics got a win not playing good basketball, and that has kind of we haven't seen that in a decent time. I do think there's a lot to improve on. I don't think we played well. I thought, outside of Tatum's 26, Brown's you're missing about 25 points on the board with Jaylen Brown right now, and I think Brown, a matter of time, I do think he'll get there. I just kind of think, he's, like I said, 85, 80, 75%. But big win. Celtics start off December, the gauntlet, with a win, 1-0. They got Portland on Friday. We will be here.
Wait. I have one more shout out to give tonight. Just one more quick one before we totally end here. Al Horford. Shout out Al Horford tonight. This was his first game tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers since they traded him to the Thunder last year. He missed both meetings with the Thunder, and he said it in this post-game presser tonight. It was a low point in Philadelphia for him. We could see that as Celtics fans for him on the outside looking in. Sixers fans, totally ruthless against him. And Ime Udoka even multiple times throughout this season talking about Al's days in Philadelphia admits that the 76ers kind of used him incorrectly and didn't put him in the best positions for them to win or even him to win. And shout out Al Horford, 10 points tonight, 5 blocks against his former team, 8 rebounds as well, and a +5. Al Horford, obviously not the best of his games, but solid game from him and man of the night, considering came away with a 1-point win against his former team in his first revenge game against them.
For sure. And like I said, the Boston Celtics do take on the Utah Jazz Friday night at 10 o'clock. We will be doing a pregame show and I believe postgame show. 9:30 pregame. The pregame's guaranteed. We don't know about the postgame.
1
yet.
a.m. postgame show. Let's get it.
We don't know about the postgame show.
This is throwing it back to summer league. Remember that summer league game?
Yeah.
What was that game? It was that game where we did a postgame show at like midnight. It was like you and me, Rob.
It was the championship. It was the championship.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that was depressing.
So Celtics defeat Sixers. See you guys Friday. Celtics get a big win. We're on to